Hi there, this is Peter Sage, and on this video I wanted to answer one of the common questions I get asked, which is, why do I meditate every day? Now, if you'd have asked me that in my 20s, I'd have said, what do you mean I don't meditate? And in my 20s I had my head so far up my own ass that meditation was not something that was on my agenda. I was too busy being busy, trying to prove to the world I was good enough. And what was interesting was that no matter how much money I made, no matter how many Ferraris I bought, no matter what it was that I was seemed to be doing that was approved of by the social scene, I was never really content, fulfilled and happy. I was actually scared more than anything, because I thought that, okay, I've made my first million, now I need another million in case I lose it. And everybody knows that that game has no finish line. But I got into meditation when I started to understand a fundamental truth, and that is that the reality of life is that there is an inner world and an outer world. We call it a physical world because we perceive it with the 5 physical senses, and we call it a metaphysical world, or beyond the physical senses, which is our inner world. Now, which is more real? It's a question that's been debated by many smarter people than me. But ask yourself the question: is anything in the outer world required in order to feel happiness in the inner world? The answer is no. And I know that because you meet many different people that have lives that you would definitely not want to swap, but have happiness bank accounts that have a higher balance. So what is it about meditation that really attracts somebody like myself to commit to my time to do it every single day? And that is that I recognize that true fulfillment in life can only be found in the inner world, and what prevents that from happening most of the time is that we have a rule that says, before I give myself permission to feel happy in the inner world, the outer world has to look like this. And I have these rules, and it must be this and it must be that, and etc. And of course, nobody's outer world pictures ever fit the pictures of what they think it should be that they've decided on the inner world. That's why we have so much stress. Stress is nothing more than a byproduct of life not fitting your pictures. Case closed. And so many people have a death grip on how they think reality should look that they spend their life trying to bend it into shape, only to realize that life doesn't like being bent into shape. So if I could just take you back to the awareness that there is a physical and a metaphysical world. Now, the essence of who we are, it may come as a surprise to you, can only be metaphysical. How do I know that? It's not, and I'm not getting into any religious or sort of different belief system overviews here. I just want to talk sensible for a second. Come to my common sense corner and just follow through this with me. You see, if the essence of who we are exists, it has to exist in the non-physical, because who I am as a person is not related to my physical body. Why? Because there's an atom, not one single atom in my physical body that was the same atom it was 2 years ago. Body replaces itself in some parts of the body every few hours, in some every few weeks, others every few months. So if we have a situation where I have a very different body today than I did when I was 5 years old, I'll have a very different body when I'm 95 years old. That's called biological maturity, and unfortunately, while we can do things to try and help that along in the direction we wish, it's pretty much non-negotiable. But the essence of who I am is still the same. Because who we are is our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations, our sense of humor, the way we look at the world, the non-physical side, the invisible stuff. That's who makes us us. If I was to take that part of you out of you and put it into somebody else's body, you would simply be them with a different body. So if the essence of life, the essence of who we are, is non-physical, then why would it make sense not to connect with that? So another way of looking at it is this: by the very definition of being physical, our destination has to be non-physical. That's not something many people dwell on as a realization, because they haven't resolved their issues around the fear of death. They still think that death is the opposite of life, whereas death is never the opposite of life. Death is simply the opposite of birth. So if you have a situation where you understand that the very definition of being physical, whether it's you, a tree, even the sun, the destination can only be non-physical. Therefore, the essence of life has to be found in the non-physical, does it not? Seems logical to me. Now, let's get back to meditation. Why do I meditate? Because several reasons. In today's physical world that most people are led by, we engage a part of ourselves, which is an incredible tool that has been very overused. It's called the left part of the brain. When we're dealing with the outer world, most of what we use to communicate and work our way through that is the left brain. It's logical, it's sequential, it works analytically, and we need that when we're crossing the road. That's very useful. But when it comes to getting in touch with the essence of who we are, which I said is metaphysical, left brain doesn't do it. You see, the mind, my friends, can only make a new house out of existing bricks that it has. It can reorganize them in many different ways. Very creative. That's where the right brain comes in. But it's like having a set of colors in front of you. You can paint almost any combination of anything on the page, but you can only use these colors or a mixture of the colors that you have. Truly new information can only come beyond the mind. It comes from a place that's deeper than that, the wellspring of inspiration, the original home of creativity that's channeled through. Now, don't take my word for that. Just look at the world around you and the people that influenced and shaped it so that you have a better world to live in. People like Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, James Watt, Nikola Tesla. Go study those lives and you'll see there's one commonality amongst them that's very surprising. They all say the same thing, that their greatest inventions, their greatest insights, equations, and ahas didn't come out of sitting there trying to think about it. It came out of a place of quiet repose, where the mind was quietened, and therefore you have access to a deeper well. Napoleon Hill would call it infinite intelligence. Quantum physicists would call it the source field. I don't care, you can call it God, you can call it whatever label you want. I'm not here to debate that. I'm here to say that if you really want inspiration in your life, make time to quieten the mind. If you can get your active mind, which operates at a beta wavelength, down into an alpha wavelength, you'll have more creativity straight away. If you can deepen that through meditation into a theta wavelength, you will have access to states of being, bliss, and happiness that elude anybody that is operating at a higher brainwave frequency, which is almost compulsory when you're in day-to-day reality. So by coming back and getting centered at least once a day, you return to that place where you really can have a sense of connection to creativity and inspiration, that then you spend the rest of your day with the active mind, adding and painting with those new colors. For me, that's the best way to actually use that. Now, some people say you should just meditate and life will transform. That doesn't happen. You need to take action. Why? Because we are physical and metaphysical. And again, in the quantum physics world, we are particle and wave. The particle is the physical body. The wave is what I've already talked about. The aspirations, the thoughts, the intuition, the real sense of who you are. Now, when we feel down and we haven't meditated and reconnected, and we're overloaded with work and stress and to-do lists and everything else, our energy frequency drops. It can be very easily measured in a science lab. Our frequency drops and we become more gravitational, we become heavier. We therefore become more particle and less wave. We become more substance and less antimatter, less, as I say, non-physical. So if you start to focus your energy on higher levels of vibration, which you can get in touch with through meditation just by quietening the mind and allowing the state to come up, don't go chasing it, because that's the problem the mind will give you, which will chase its tail. But just by quietening the mind, you will allow yourself access to higher levels of vibration. You've got joy, compassion, gratitude, unconditional love. Those states raise your frequency, so now you become more radiational than gravitational. You feel lighter. Your actual energy field, which is driven by that sonic pulse that goes every beat of your heart, that can be measured from up to 20 feet away, suddenly expands. And using items like Carillion photography, where you can measure the energy field in the visual spectrum, you start to notice that we become more wave and less particle. We feel lighter. Now, there's a reason for that. There's less mass. We feel it. We don't need to step on a scale to validate it. So if you can understand that meditation is so much more than just trying to de-stress, that happens to be one of the byproducts. But for me, it's about learning to quiet an overactive left brain that will always give me a limited color or a limited palette of paint in order to paint within my day-to-day life. Again, you need to take action still. It's not about meditating your way through life. Try meditating your way out of a tiger attack and see what happens. It's not about visualizing and just meditating, hoping you get checks in the mail. That'll just bring you an eviction notice. It's about acting when you're in the physical world, But don't negate the essence of who we really are, which you get in touch with and sort of fill up that level of connection to when you learn to quiet the mind. Now, another phrase that you'll see in my meditation room at home is that a restless mind is easily swayed. If you want to have a level of conviction that transcends the good opinion of others, if you want to have belief in what it is that you're moving towards, learn to quieten the mind. Because the mind will talk you in and out of just about anything. It's an incredible tool. Its job is to justify, if you've not figured that out yet. By having the mind justify everything, it'll come up with a fantastically sounding esoteric reason designed to soothe the ego so that you can justify why you want to go and do what you do. Has no basis in reality or truth, but it's just designed to balance the equation, because that's what the mind does. If you live your life trying to balance the equation, you're going to miss the essence of life, which is non-conformist in the physical world. Rivers don't go in straight lines. Try balancing that equation. So if you understand that by meditating, even if it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 minutes a day, it's not about sitting there trying to wrestle with your mind to have no thoughts. It's about connecting, calming, and putting yourself in a space where you can turn down the volume, turn out the outside world, which will still be waiting for you when you finish. Turn your phone on silent, or turn it off, and really start connecting to something that's the deeper part of who you are. Once you do that, everything else out here that becomes noisy tends to quieten down. Why? Because the ultimate truth of people that have found how to live life on their terms is that they recognize the outer world follows the inner world, not the other way around. You've got chaos out there, check what's happening in here. Learn to quieten this down. The noise out here tends to reduce. And that, my friends, is why I meditate every day. Hey, Peter Sage here. I'm back just to say I hope you enjoyed what you saw on that video. And remember that knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. So it's about applying what you learn, not just being passively entertained by what you learn. If you like more of what I do, please subscribe to my channel so I can share more of my wisdom and insights with you to make a difference. Please also go to my website at petersage.com. I have a ton of free content for a lot of people there to add more value, and I hope to see you on another video soon.